Good morning and good evening to the audience and our speakers for the by now 11th Transatlantic AI Exchange web session. Today's May 5th, 2022, and also our first year anniversary. I'm Thomas Neubert, born and raised in Germany, a longtime entrepreneur living in Silicon Valley for over 30 years now, and working at Intel's headquarters in Santa Clara around topics related to artificial intelligence and the data center of the future. We are again super excited bringing together high-tech experts and connecting them with the up-and-coming German and EU startup ecosystem. Allow me to provide a quick overview of this Transatlantic AI Exchange initiative. TAIX is a platform that aims at accelerating and expanding the transatlantic knowledge exchange in the human-to-machine economy, the so-called fourth industrial revolution. We foster exchanges on AI and create the grounds for entrepreneurs, for researchers, investors, German Mittelstand, and policymakers to build long-term partnerships. Within only 1 year, we have been building an incredible network of experienced people, creating 10 virtual sessions to share useful and valuable knowledge to over 3,000 attendees. We also hosted the first virtual EU AI conference on March 22nd, which alone had over 1,100 attendees from a record-breaking 84 different countries. A big thank you to my founding members, Petra and Ragnar, and also the extended TAIX family for making this all happen. Partners. I'd like to thank our increasing list of partners who continuously help us to grow this community. A warm welcome to our brand new partners, the newly established German Center for Research and Innovation in San Francisco. More about that later. Also, back to Silicon Valley is the German Accelerator and the German Entrepreneurships Targeting Programs, empowering German startups to scale globally. They take high potential companies, including those focused on AI, on a fast-paced learning journey in some of the world's leading innovation hubs, such as Silicon Valley, New York, and Asia. Quick comment about the past conference. We hosted the first virtual 2-hour EU AI conference on March 22nd, and the full video is now available for free on our event section on our website. All our videos of all sessions are AI enabled, and you can easily search for words and jump to video clips, and it's all powered by Clipper, the platform. Awards. We are excited to also announce our 2022 awards program to support entrepreneurs in their journey. Any person who attended at least 2 of our 2022 TAIX events, share and follow us on LinkedIn can win up to $1,000 towards travel expenses and up to 6 hours of coaching and mentoring from TAIX experts. So please take advantage of that. We have already secured an impressive list of upcoming events and are excited about the topics and the experts supporting our program. A little bit more about the leadership program, and maybe we can go to the next slide. The Leadership Garage, in partnership with TAIX, is hosting a 2-day workshop for leaders to discuss an interactive classes for the AI potential and digital business models. More details about the event and signups will follow over the next few days. If you believe our event is of value, please share and like us. If anyone has transatlantic or AI-related topics of any sort, please reach out to us and we will consider building them into the program. We are excited to announce yet another experienced panel of experts to discuss the digital transformation after COVID. What is the new normal in the standard innovation ecosystem? So let's get to it. First, I would like to welcome Jörg Reinbold, the Managing Director at APX. Reinhold, please introduce yourself and take it from here.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the invitation. And hello, everyone. So I don't have any slides that I want to share. I will just explain to you what we do and what I do. So I'm Jörg. I'm a managing director of APX. I've been founder and investor for more than 25 years. I've been with eBay for 5 years in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I was the first investor of Smava. I co-founded betterplace.org with friends, and I'm particularly proud of that. I was the first investor of DeepL. Some of you might know them. They use AI quite heavily. And I'm on the board of Balzen, the cookie company, which is a very non-AI topic, but very real and very tasty. APX, what I'm doing with 99% of my time, was founded in 2018. And we are a very early stage VC. We have our investors are Axel Springer, the media company, and Porsche, the car manufacturer. And with this super diverse group of shareholders, we are focused on not industry topics, but very early stage digital companies. We have invested in 140 companies until today, and we usually are the first investor of these companies, and we invest very early, and we up to 500,000 euros until Series A. Usually we start with a small investment, and then in 2021, for example, our portfolio companies were able to raise the next financing round after 8 weeks, which we think is quite good. We plan to invest into 50 to 60 companies this year, and we have invested, I think, in 19 until today. And when we invest, we work closely with the companies, and we call them venture development sprints. We do that during the whole time we are their shareholder, which we usually are until we are able to exit. We work very intensely in the beginning. We connect the B2B companies we invest in with our network and with relevant potential clients. And around 15% of the companies we invested in are working with our shareholders, Axel Springer or Porsche. We have a network of around 400 founders who like to learn from and with each other. And we have co-invested with 600 investors, and we have more than 1,000 experts and mentors in our networks. We invest all over Europe and in Israel, sometimes in the US, but usually we're very skeptical when companies from the US ask us if we want to invest, because we think there's quite a great ecosystem there as well. We are 16 people working out of Berlin, or in the past I used to say working out of Berlin, but COVID has changed us quite a bit. We are now distributed all over the world, would be a little bit too big, but we are quite distributed. And yeah, if you want to know more about us, you can either talk to me or check out apx.vc, and that's us. And I'm very much looking forward to our conversation.
Great, Jörg. Thank you very much. And you hinted on a few things, and we will discuss that a little bit more during the conversation. So maybe next time, the next person, Benjamin Erhardt, partner, UVC Partners, Unternehmertum, very well known in Germany, obviously. Benjamin, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Jörg. So my name is Benjamin. I'm one of the partners of UVC Partners. It's an early stage venture capital firm based in Germany. Say a few words about that later. And we're closely associated to Unternehmertum. And to make that more tangible, I brought you just a picture of the building that I'm sitting in. So allow me quickly to share this. So that's the building. I hope you can see it. That I'm having the call up from with you. So the building you see here is Munich Urban Collab. It's a building that has been built in the middle of COVID, and it's run and hosted by an organization called Unternehmertum. So Unternehmertum is the German word for entrepreneurship. It's a funny name for an organization, but that's actually what this organization does. It lives entrepreneurship with every angle. It does educate people, both from the University of Munich, from professionals, from corporates, in building companies and going their own path. So this is a 300 people organization that has a strong impact on the companies that are being built in the German and in the Munich ecosystem. Very often founders are more or less touched or educated by one of the classes or courses or programs or accelerators that are run by Unternehmertum. And why am I saying that? Because we're a VC firm, which is embedded in this ecosystem. So we're sitting in one of these boxes up there. These are our offices. And what we do is we invest in teams, in people, in companies. We do that quite successfully since 10 years. The current fund is a 250 million euro fund. We have some 40 plus portfolio companies, and we grew the team to over 20 employees. So on the right, you see the team. And the unique thing about the team is it's basically all engineers, both male and female. But our DNA is in B2B tech and in engineering, and we're happy and very proud about that. So we really try to work and understand the tech of the businesses and the technological fundamentals. So that's the DNA. We invest from 500K to 10 million in the first check. Everything from pre-seed to Series A and B, as long as it's a B2B business model and has some sort of a tech angle. So I think the most important thing is to understand the portfolio, and I try to emphasize this because this builds the bridge also to what we will discuss today. The portfolio is our, we're very proud of it. It's the main asset. And what you can see there is a lot of gifted people that have built great companies, and some of them are building these companies on an AI technology stack, but also on the corporation that builds a bridge across the Atlantic. So we have many friends investing from the US directly. We have noticed a lot of change in the market in the last 2 years, and I'm happy to discuss this with my fellow colleagues in the next hour. So a few words about me to sum it up. I'm one of the general partners since 5 years with UVC. I started the VC career with HTGF 8 years ago, was an intern there when barely no venture capital was in Germany, and we did some 400 investments in 8 years, learned a lot, and did investments such as Twice, HQS, Elise, and others, but also had the privilege to sell already companies, most recently Fazua to Porsche or Enscape to Chaos. So looking forward to the panel. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Benjamin. Appreciate it. So as you can see here, we have two German-based VCs as speakers here. And at Tykes, we always like to mix things up to get different viewpoints and make it very valuable to the audience. So with that said, there's still a German spin to it because Bernhard obviously is from Germany, as you can see by the name, but Bernhard has been living in Silicon Valley almost forever. And welcome Bernhard to the team. Bernhard is a venture partner at Relay Ventures, but he also has a close association to Germany from his past. Bernhard, welcome and take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. And hello, everybody. Yes, I've been living here in Silicon Valley for, is it now 12 years? I started my venture career 15 years ago, originally for T-Venture, so the venture arm of Deutsche Telekom back then in Germany. That's what also brought me here. Then I was for 4 years with Iris Capital, what's a French venture fund. And now I'm with Relay Ventures for 2 years now. And in all these roles, all these jobs, basically, it was always the goal to basically build a bridge between Silicon Valley and Germany. I mean, obviously, with the two former funds, we had a big portfolio in Germany, and I was always the guy here to do deals in Silicon Valley. And it always goes both ways. So when we do deals here, we often help the companies go to Europe, and the other way around with our especially German startups. At some point, you know, we help them coming here in the Silicon Valley, if it makes sense, raise money. With Relay Venture is similar. So Relay is like a mid-size tech fund. We invest in all kinds of tech, from climate tech, mobility, software. Do normally early stage or Series C to Series A. So like, let's say like 500,000 to 2 to 3 million. Are usually a lead investor here in Silicon Valley. And now with our new fund we just raised in December, we are also more focused on doing deals in Germany. So that's why I'm always interested in seeing interesting companies over there. And I mean, we come to the topic later, but what broke that up basically, because all of my partners are here, obviously, but through COVID, we become very comfortable to do like deals over Zoom. So that's why we are really looking, and we see a lot of potential in many areas, actually, like especially in the German market, and really good startups and good deal flow there.
Thank you, Bernard. Good overview. So now we have a different angle of the whole ecosystem from a support perspective, and I would absolutely welcome Zahar Barth Manzouri to this round. She just a few weeks ago moved over to beautiful Silicon Valley, San Francisco. They just hosted a beautiful gala evening for the opening of this fantastic initiative, or office, I should say. And she's the head of the DWIH in San Francisco, the German Center for Research and Innovation. And Zaha, again, welcome to the family, and please introduce yourself and what you do.
Yes, thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you for the invitation and the possibility to introduce myself and what we are doing here. So I brought a presentation just to explain with a few slides what we do and why we are here. So Oliver, maybe you can share my presentation. So the German Centers for Research and Innovation go back to an initiative of internationalization of the Federal Foreign Office over 10 years ago. And the management of these German Centers for Research and Innovation is based at the German Academic Exchange Service, DAAD. You probably have heard about it. It's the world's biggest funding agency for international exchange of students and researchers worldwide. So when we go to the next slide, I can just briefly show you that until the beginning of 2022, we had 5 of these houses on different locations, one already in the US, in New York, but also in Sao Paulo, in Delhi, in Moscow, and in Tokyo, and in Bonn is the headquarters of the DWIH. And so these are 5 innovation prominent locations around the world. And this joint initiative is led by politics, economics, and science. And the structure of the DWIH is that we have supporters worldwide. So German research institutions and universities, and also companies with a research section, can be our supporters and use this incredible network that we established and built over 10 years ago. As I said, the management and general responsibility is by the DAAD in Bonn, and this is because we already have a huge network worldwide, and we are very fit when it comes to organizing and managing offices around the world. And we also have a very good connection to all research institutions and universities worldwide. So when we go to the next slide, I also would like to briefly explain to you what one back, please. Yeah, what we do. So what are our aims here in San Francisco, but also on the other locations we have? So this initiative is also to increase the visibility of German research and science institutions, especially when it comes to innovations. So partners here in the Bay Area can reach out to us to get information about what's going on in German research universities and how can we connect. So another thing is that we have a lot of knowledge in both directions, from the German and, in this case, the Bay Area perspective. We can also advise scientists, and when you talk about early stage, you mean something totally different. When we talk about early stage, we're talking about those students or young researchers at universities who don't really know where they want to go to in their future, but we want to open their mindset at this very early stage of their career. So there is also a market. You don't have to stay in the university, or you can do several things at the same time. So just opening this mindset, this entrepreneurial spirit and business mindset combined with scientific excellence. This is what we focus on. And networking, of course, like this event and many others, we also want to connect already existing networks in the Bay Area and in Germany to enhance this innovation ecosystem for both sides. So on the next slide, Oliver, I just want to briefly talk about our mission, which I already mentioned. So why are we here? We have many supporters and research institutions and universities, and we want to facilitate a cross-cutting platform for both German and American stakeholders. Also, we want to focus on an interdisciplinary approach. We do events also here in the Bay Area. We want to build bridges between science, policy, and society. And we identify relevant topics for both sides. So what is relevant for the German side and the US side at the same time, like energy questions, mobility, AI, and so on. And through our activities, we support the creation of spin-offs from German universities. So this is why we are here. We are based in the German hub in San Francisco. It's in Montgomery Street in the financial district. And we are also happy to be here and to advise you if you have any question and to get in touch with you. Thank you.
Wonderful, Zahra. Thank you very much. Welcome to the family here in the Greater Bay Area. And I'm certain that many people have many questions. I want to remind everybody after the 1 hour session, we do have an additional 30-minute networking session where you can ask questions and interact with the speakers. Before we dive into some of the topics that we discussed earlier for the session, there was a little bit of a hiccup earlier. We missed a slide. And let me see if I'm able to share a slide. I just want to briefly share one slide. I hope I don't screw this up. And I assume everybody can see my slide. So there was one event that we had mentioned earlier in the upcoming 4 events that's in the pipeline, in the works. And this particular one is on June 22nd and 23rd. And if people in the audience have followed TIKES over the last 12 months, we are exploring different ways to bring knowledge to the target audience. We started, and we will always do these individual 1 hour sessions where we go deep into a topic. We keep doing our incredible, successful 2 hour or 1.5 hour session that has gotten really good reviews. But now there's also a partnership that we have with the Leadership Garage, where there's a 2 event, very, very interactive in workshops for a couple of hours during the 2 days. It's the Leadership Garage that is putting this all together. We are just partnering with them and providing our expertise, but I want to point this out specifically. More information will come very soon. I don't have a link right now I can give to you to sign up for it. I leave that up to the organizer. But if you have already some questions about this, either follow us on LinkedIn over the next few days. We will provide more details. We will put whatever we have available over the next days on our website. But besides that, if you contact the email address on the lower left corner, you probably get additional information. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. So with that in mind, let's go back to our session. Again, thank you very much for the introduction. And one interesting takeaway for me was how the VCs overall these days are working with COVID, after COVID, traveling, non-traveling, personal relationships. And maybe before I throw out the first question to the speakers, maybe a quick comment from my end. So I personally, I live in the Bay Area for over 30 years. And at the moment I'm dealing with startup companies, particularly with an individual startup company based in Israel. And it just so happened that within Intel, they took incredibly take care of us over COVID. I have not been physically in my office in Santa Clara for 2 years. And I only had 2 business trips in 2 years to see my partners and my peers and my colleagues. They are based all in Israel. So talking about working virtually, literally, it has been an amazing experience, and yet it actually has worked quite nicely. So there is a way where you can actually work an entire year plus, building a relationship, building partnerships with external partners, managing a team remotely, dealing with your peers remotely. It's incredible. So I am probably a living example, and many, many others who have adopted because we had to. And by the end of the day, I have to admit, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to sit on a plane flying internationally every 60, 90 days, you know, since 30 years. I don't need my gold standard anymore with United. I have to admit, it's actually nice the way we are doing it here right now. To some extent, I still like interacting with people. Having said that, I got some really good feedback when we had the pre-session interviews with the speakers. And I want to throw out the question, how do German VCs or also here local VCs source and engage with startups pre versus post-COVID? That's the first question. And the second question, maybe related to that, is looking at VCs in the past, and anybody like Bernard, correct me if I'm wrong, but normally the attitude here was, you know, it's preferred that the startup company needs to be as close physical as it can be to Sand Road. They want to be managed quite nicely. You want to have the personal interaction. Is that still the case? Or literally has the world changed even on the VC side? I know on my corporate side it has, but what about the investor side, and how do you source and how do you work with your peers and with your ecosystem? Maybe Bernard, you take the first crack at it.
Yeah, a great question. And indeed, like our world and our way of doing business has changed dramatically. It's absolutely correct, Thomas, that it used to be the case. I mean, Silicon Valley is all about networking, right? And meeting people, network and working together. That's the essence of this ecosystem, basically, or at least it used to be. And you're absolutely right. I mean, before COVID, it was unthinkable that a VC, I think for most VCs, right, would do a deal without meeting the team, meeting the CEO, you know, getting into like really what they're doing. And these like personal meetings were basically essential for doing any deal. And if you would have asked like any VC, I mean, my former VC firms, but also the other ones I know here, would you do a deal from remote? The answer would be definitely no. And when COVID hit in 2020, there was a month or two maybe where everything was literally frozen. We just took care of our portfolio, but hardly any investment, and nothing was really happening. It was kind of this COVID shock, right? And then at the end of the year, it ended up to be like the second best year, just like the volume of venture capital deployed globally in history, right? And how did that happen? Well, very simple. We very quickly became like, comfortable to do deals over Zoom. We don't have to see the companies anymore. Like you, Thomas, I mean, I traveled now the first time in 2 years, 3 weeks ago to Germany to see startups in person, but it was literally the first time in 2 years. But we are still very active in investing, of course, and we do everything over Zoom by now. If it comes back to like really meeting people in the Silicon Valley, it slowly does, right? So the last couple of weeks, you know, like COVID here is basically over, and you start meeting people for coffee. You start like really seeing companies. For us at Relay Ventures, we actually closed down our office on Central Road like 2 years ago because it was not necessary. We will not open it up again. Just because of that, we still have like a little office here in San Francisco. And actually, two of my partners who were here before in Silicon Valley, but are Canadian, moved back to Canada, and they also won't come back because it is just like easier that way. Maybe just like, and then I hand over to the German VCs here. What I observe, and my explanation is also like this development, that in the last couple of years, we see far more activities of like US VCs in Germany And that's like a very positive development, because it always like was annoying to me that we have such a amazing ecosystem there as well, and great startups, but it was always like a hurdle for US VCs to invest there. They don't have an office, they don't have any partners sitting there. And my hypothesis is that through COVID, because they are comfortable now to do deals over Zoom, you can also do it in Europe. And I think that's part of the reason why you see so much activity, what is like really great for the German startup market.
Interesting. Jörg.
Yeah,
What
for
about-
us, yeah, we changed quite a bit. So before COVID, we had a quite large office where we invited all the startups to be with us after we invested. Obviously, when COVID hit, we closed our office, and we were just in the process of building a new office that we actually finished, but then didn't move into. And luckily, one of our portfolio companies grew so fast that they needed it. So we now have a small office for us. The portfolio company has our large office. We've invested in, I think, more than 90 companies since COVID, and we haven't met the founders in person, most of them. We became way more international. Also, our co-investors, as you said, that people can invest via video, and it works really well. I think also from a sustainability point of view, it's really cool because I don't travel that much anymore. I lost all my stati for like the Vielflieger like all the programs, which is super fine. I actually celebrate this. I think what is a little bit more difficult is to organize serendipity. A lot of the things that we used to do included like the serendipity moments when people got together and met and talked to each other. And this randomness is very hard to organize via video. So we do our best in figuring out what kind of formats can we come up with and connect people. But we still love to do like the real world serendipity moments. So for example, next week, I will travel again. I will go to London, and I have a few meetings with potential investors. And then we looked at how many founders do we have in London, and we figured we have more than 40 in London, UK, and Ireland. And we asked them, do you want to meet? And they all replied, yes, we want to. And so we'll have a portfolio day there, and we will meet in person and see how this is. I will meet most of them for the first time ever in real life. I met them multiple times in video calls, but the first like real world meetings will come. And then I think on what it did to our company is we are, like, as I said, 16 people from 11 countries. And we started to be distributed as well. So my colleagues, most of them are based in Berlin, but we spend way more time everywhere with our families or just working out of other places. Like one of my colleagues has been working from his home country, Chile, for 4 months this winter. He appreciated that a lot because I don't know if you ever experienced the Berlin winter, not the nicest thing to do. And some of my colleagues didn't notice it for more than 12 weeks that he actually was not in Berlin because our office was closed anyway. And I was in one of the video calls where one of my colleagues figured it out, and he was like, Diego, why is it? I think it was dark at his place and we already at daylight. And he was like, well, I've been in Chile for 3 months now and you didn't figure it. So for us, that works really well. And personally, I'm looking forward to really be able to work from other places as well, especially since my kids are doing their final school exams these days. So I'll be free again in 4 weeks.
Nice, thank you. Good example, real life examples. Benjamin, how about you in good old Bavaria?
So the journey of the fund is pretty much the same. So we closed down in the first COVID shock, and some 2 months later, we figured out this works really well, and then speeded up operations remotely, and that works really, really well. I saw one question in the chat whether one can raise money remotely in Germany. And I just would like to, I mean, you can Google any statistic, but that says it pretty well. Yeah, so that's venture capital in Europe for 10 years. COVID kicked in, investors around the globe figured, hey, that works remotely quite well. And all of a sudden, the market size doubled, even tripled in a year. I mean, just think about that. So the question whether one can raise decent global money in Germany, it has been answered in a very clear and impressive way last year. And that was probably the deepest change founders in the ecosystem saw in the past couple of years. Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, you can raise money in a competitive process whilst not leaving the kitchen of the shared flat. Yeah, that is pretty amazing. Before we had traveling, due diligence, networking, access, there were so many hurdles. And I think this is a super helpful development for the ecosystem. It just increases competition, it increases velocity of the market, it raises volumes. So there are so many advantages. One downside Jörg mentioned is, and I experienced that myself, if you're like really pushing deals in front of your laptop, that's not super satisfying. So actually, you're leaving out the fun part. You're leaving out the connection with the people. And the strategy we have is we come to the office to meet people, not necessarily to work hard, because it's less productive. That's just how we feel it is, but it doesn't work without. So today the office is crowded. Teams come here, people come here to meet, to exchange in person. We also see the return of VC and founder dinners. Yeah, so that's an important aspect. But the actual transaction work still is super remotely. And I think this change will last, and it will keep the market on a very competitive, on a high level. Yeah, I think that's good, and it's here to stay, that change.
I would totally second that. We are definitely species who need the social interaction casually and in business. There's no doubt. Zahar, you are in a little bit different situation. Obviously, you don't have a fund, but you rely on the network and connecting the dots, right? How are you going to do that going forward, either in the digital domain or in the physical domain? And you can ask us, you can ask the audience, wherever we can give you a helping hand. We are more than happy to do that. Tell us.
Yes, thank you. So from our perspective, looking at our network from a global perspective, we also focus on topics like diversity issues, and see that, of course, internationalization and digitalization can enhance each other, but can also be barriers. Speaking of, do you have the hardware you need? Do you have enough internet connection? Is your network strong enough to be part of this whole play worldwide? So what we did, we had many programs, not only the DWI has, but also the German Academic Exchange Service. How can students and researchers worldwide connect and work remotely? So what is the value of having the possibility to study in another country without being there? So be a student of somewhere. How can you catch some of the mindsets, what we are talking about? Because I think we all know that it's not only about knowledge, but it's also to catch some of the ideas and to connect with people. So I think it was really good for German universities and research institutions just to be pushed towards digitalization very fast. This is the one thing. And the other thing is that we need to look also at aspects of equity and diversity, and to see what are the needs of the special groups, because of course, I understand that for VCs and for the money, it's really important to have like the biggest, best companies for the future. But what is also important is, how do we want to shape our future? And so speaking of that, we all know that for German startups, the past years have been very successful. We have very, very famous startups like the Gorillas or Infarm or others. known worldwide, but and also the Fraunhofer spin-off, speaking of research-based companies and startups, they continue to grow, and it was not pushing them back. But yeah, serendipity is very important. And I also feel after 4 months in San Francisco that the chance to be here, to spend time here, to talk to the people is so incredibly important. And we work a lot with the universities like Stanford and Berkeley, who are really, really good when it comes to entrepreneurial spirit and starting their career very early with startups. And I think it's important to catch some of this wind here and to be here. I hope in a few years, we are talking about the pandemic as if it's over, or as if we are looking from a perspective 20 years after that. I think we have still the chance to have an impact on it, in which direction it will go. And I think for me personally, an ideal world would be that we combine the beneficial sides of digitalization, internationalization, a good work-life balance. I think this is something we all mentioned here. And also, innovation always occurs when you meet people you didn't expect to talk to them. So this is something we still need for future. And this is also the source of our creativity. So I think this is important for all of us.
Well, this is very informative, very helpful. 3 takeaways for me by listening to this conversation is that definitely for almost everybody that I've been talking to, the work-life balance is more important than ever, because we have seen the difference from previous lives, and then through COVID. The second is, and Benjamin proved this by the numbers, is everywhere where you look, 2020, 2021 has been record years in investing, in startups coming up, in research projects. So it seems that COVID actually opened a floodgate of opportunities, and we took advantage of it. The question now is, the obvious question is now, if you look at the opportunities that are now in front of us, from an investor perspective, but also Zaha, from your perspective, if you are looking for portfolios, what kind of particular topics for opportunities in research and startups are you looking for? Has it changed because of COVID? Is it still the same and we're just staying the course? We're just executing differently, or even have topics really come up out of nowhere, or it was reprioritized? Who would like to give a step at that one? Jörg, go ahead, please.
Oh, Jörg, what?
Yeah. So for us, it's what has changed is we are focused on people. So we invest in teams, and what is like not new to us, but what works better is we can like get in touch with people from anywhere, because anywhere where an internet connection and a video call is possible, we can at least get in touch. And we really do a lot to connect with people in ecosystems we have not been able to connect with before. And for us, it looks like we can create something that I would call good globalization, where we can allow people access to capital, to growth across borders, and to, this is always the romantic Jörg talking, to really help founders and entrepreneurs from all kinds of backgrounds, genders, and to get access to capital and to growth potential. And for us, being based in the German market and the European market, we might be able to open doors for them to like create some initial growth, and then hopefully we will be able to help them to even grow globally. And so for us, this was possible even before, but it was a little bit further away because there was so much we were able to do being in Berlin and talking to people who would come through our door. without this, we were we were forced to go digital. And then we very fast figured out that digital is just a click away, no matter where it is. And we think about what can we do, how can we invest in African companies? And we haven't figured out how to invest in African companies, but we have figured out how to invest in African founders and help them to build European entities, and through that get access to European capital. And so for us, this has allowed to really become more global than we were before. But we are very early, also important. So we invest like hundreds of thousands and not tens of millions. I think you need different due diligences when you are later stage. You just can't do, oh, let's do this. It's a little bigger.
I would agree that, you know, you invest in people come first, and then you have to look at what the problem is that this particular team is trying to solve. But with that in mind, are there any specific segments or industry segments or use cases that you are preferring to invest in rather than others, or are you open for almost everything?
Yeah, and it's obviously changing all the time. I think, at least here, for example, in Germany, COVID has given digitization such a boost. So many more people are spending money digitally. All the we sometimes think in share of wallet dimensions or share of time dimensions. How people spend their time was influenced obviously heavily by COVID. And I also want to say COVID is really bad, and a lot of people have suffered a lot. And this we all know this, and we feel with the people who suffered from it, or who lost people. But there's also quite a lot of opportunity in new ways how people spend money, new ways how people spend their time. I think we will benefit from the digitization that, for example, all the school kids learned how video conferences work, and you can learn something for the rest of our lives and their lives as well. And I think there's tremendous opportunity in new business models and new target groups doing new things, where I always think it's nice that I can see all the founders thinking about what kind of business models are possible now in all kinds of value creation and value chains. And with all the COVID crisis, logistic crisis, impact on supply chains, there is massive opportunity everywhere. There's also massive dangers everywhere of supplies not working. But from a, I think, founder point of view, there's so much change and so many new holes that can be found, that can be filled with digital business models. And
So digitization obviously is very big in Germany with the new government and the prioritization and stuff. Bernhard, on the topic we are just on, what's your view from a German person, but from a Silicon Valley investor's point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just about to say, so for us, so first of all, there are always like these waves, you know, these buzzwords of investing, and used to be cloud, and it is of course AI or autonomous driving or electric cars, or now it's digitalization, remote work and collaboration. So for us, for as an investor, it's just like new opportunities. What mainly changed is not so much what we're investing in, because it always been the case that we're looking for the next big thing, basically, you know, what's the next $1 billion investment. It is more really like the way we are doing business and doing investments, as we spoke about it. But I wanted to mention as well that having said that, personal relationships still matter a lot, even though we may do many things over Zoom. I mean, Jörg mentioned it. It used to be maybe more that you as a VC, you met, and the startups, of course, on the other side, you met a lot of new startups, like on conferences, for example, and meetings. That's not happened, at least not in the last 2 years. It's coming back for sure. And now it is like the main deal flow we're investing in is more personal relationships, right? So other startup or founders, or of course, like other VCs or board members you're on the board with, who see companies For the startups, on the other side, it means that, especially for fundraising, really focus on these personal relationships with VCs and the partners there, and take it from there, right? Because these recommendations probably now matter more than it used to be. And I think that's one good tip for the startups there. In the Silicon Valley, we are discussing a lot are like, what was the magic actually of this ecosystem, right? Where everybody wanted to be here is because everybody else is here and you can collaborate and like do and social network kind of a lot. That was the essence of Silicon Valley after all, because like the big VCs are here, of course, so many startups, all the big tech companies basically are here. And I personally think because personal relationships are so important and personal meetings as well, this will come back. And South by Southwest, the big tech conference, was already a success like a month ago. I'm going personally, I cannot wait to the TechCrunch Mobility in 2 weeks, for example. And over time, I think we will see a hybrid, what I think is the best of both worlds, right? So that you still will have a lot of personal relationships, meet people, go on conferences again, of course, but also feel totally comfortable if you can't to invest somewhere else and have relationships, even if they're just virtual. I mean, at Relay Ventures, just an example, of course, I knew the partners before when I joined from before COVID. But the rest of the team, like maybe how many are we, like 16 people, like in 2 years now, I've never met. And we're just working together from remotely. So if it makes sense, I think personal meetings are coming back, events, etc. But at the same time, it's not a must. You know, you can work from home, you can do deals remotely from here in Europe and the other way around. And it's kind of what I would describe the best of both worlds, basically, at least for our tech industry.
So if you look at South by Southwest or DLD or whatever these nice conferences are, do they go hybrid? Do they all have the ability to join remotely?
Totally. South by or now this TechCrunch conference, for example, they're both, right? So you can participate digitally, right? So that all the panels and everything is streamed, so you can watch everything and participate, of course, and have the discussion remote. But you can also, like what I will do for sure, you can also go there. So these conferences are both now.
Okay. Benjamin, how are you doing it? Are you doing it the same?
Yeah, sorry, may I add something just to the South by? Because I was also in Austin last month, and for me, it was the first time being there, and I can totally recommend it to anyone to be there in person, because you meet so many interesting people. It's not only about the sessions and the topics you can join, it's also about who to talk with and finding people from all over the world working on the same topics or on slightly different things. And I think it's such an inspiration for so many people to go to these places and conferences. And what I also wanted to add is, for all of those who don't have any contact, who kind of start from zero, it's also very important to be there in person, because if you're a well-known person and you're already established, it's easy to have a Zoom meeting or call or to discuss with someone. So I think for the what we would call Kaltakquise, it's good to have to talk to someone in person and also to convince them. And just to highlight, one of the things, especially my colleagues in New York offer, is also for pitching, science communication, and also pitching when you start a startup, how to talk to a US audience is totally different than in Germany. So how can we make these incredible young people fitter when it comes to the only chance they have? Because it's easy. Someone just told me yesterday, it's so easy to meet the CEOs of all these big companies, but only once. And if you screw that up, you won't get a second chance. So it's so important when it comes also to communication and the way you pitch and convince people from your idea. So this is also something very important.
Thomas, care to add to that, because especially for the startups in the audience, I think that's a very important point, because pitching here in Silicon Valley is so different. And Sarah, you're absolutely right. You only have this one chance, because you talk to VC, you become into their deal flow database, get into there, and if the first pitch is not perfect, you end up in the database as flagged as not interesting, and then it's very hard to come back to any of also the other VC partners of that firm, because they look it up in the database. Oh, we looked at this already, and then they have no interest anymore. So this is famous 5 to 10 minutes elevator pitch. And that's what I'm doing actually a lot, really with especially German startups to train them and make them Silicon Valley ready, basically. Because a German founder, if you give them an hour, usually they can perfectly explain their business, but the attention span of a Silicon Valley VC is actually only 10 minutes max, right? And if you don't make your whole story, your whole point within that time, it's really hard to get an attention, because here they are used to these elevator pitches so much that is kind of a standard, right? And that's actually a really difficult thing to do, right? If you have an hour, you can explain your business, everybody can do that. If you only have 5 minutes, and you have to convey the whole real story and the important points of all your business in 5 minutes, that's actually really hard. And if you look at what Y Combinator, 500 startups, all these accelerators here are doing, actually is nothing else, right? So over months, you really work on your pitch until it's really perfect, and you have it in 5 to 10 minutes. And that's for all the startups here. If you start fundraising over here, you talk to US VCs, especially Silicon Valley. That's a really important point that you should work on and put. It's totally worth putting a lot of time, because it's work and it's no fun, but it's totally worth putting the time into that.
Before we switch to our networking session, there will be another link in the chat, and click on that first, because if you get out of this one and you don't click, then you lost in nirvana. So click on the other one and then get out of this. One last question for all speakers here. If you have the choice, and you have 1 minute to answer, maybe less, if you have the choice this year for the next 12 months to go to 2 big conferences, like the ones of South by Southwest as an example, or you go to 10 different virtual Zoom networking sessions, something like this, or you go to the office to cut deals and meet people there. Between the 3, what are the priorities? How would you manage your time?
Well, I would do all of that.
Well, yes,
because,
of course. Isn't 10,
no,
10,
but
80?
That's kind of the point. You can through that you can do so much more, right? So there you don't have to choose anymore. So yes, I mean, Zoom meetings are half an hour, and you do so much more communication with people over Zoom compared to driving to the south. I mean, Thomas, right here, the traffic and everything. Driving to the South Bay, have a meeting, and then half an hour later, another meeting, and so on. So you can do, my opinion, you can do basically all of that, and because we became so much more efficient.
Benjamin, what about you?
Yeah, so my choice would be I'd go to the office, but I also have the unfair advantage that we have just a bunch of events and founders coming to the office. So it's the best of both worlds approach as well.
That's interesting. Okay, so okay, got it.
Yeah, so there's a turnover of 60 teams per quarter, and that's what makes it so exciting to come here, and what I appreciate so much. Yeah, we don't have to discuss that it's more productive to be on Zoom, but
that's a nice.
My preference is very clear.
Yeah, that's a nice position to be in. What about you, Jörg?
2 things. I could talk about this for hours, but I need to be quick. One thing is my life is an as well as life and not an either or life. And the second thing is I have synchronous and asynchronous weeks. So I can explain that to anyone who's interested in that in the networking session.
Okay.
So
Zaha, let's see, we have 30 seconds for you having the last word on that question. And then please, guys, everybody go in the chat, click on that link, and then see you later. Zaha, please go ahead.
Yeah, an ideal day for me is going to my office in the German hub, meeting my colleagues from other German institutions, talking to 10 people maybe, then logging into such an incredible Zoom session we have today, meeting with another 10, 20, 30 people all over the world, and then booking the flight maybe for the next South by festival in Austin to meet people from all over the world.
Okay. At least for me now, I know which conference I should actually add to my list, and I haven't done it this year. All right, I thank everybody for this great conversation. The link is being posted in the chat, and I hopefully see most of you then in a few seconds in the other session. With that, everybody, thank you very much, and I hope everybody enjoyed it as we did. Thank you.
Okay.